Our last talk of the session is Lizzie Hackett. Lizzie is an environmental studies and art major graduating in June of 2024. So she's told me that she's looking for a career where she can meld her art and environmental studies degrees, and it's something she's already putting into practice. She just received word that she placed third at Earth Lab's visual art contest for her piece on environmental and climate justice. So congratulations. And although she's probably too modest to mention it, a lot of the graphics that you'll see are things that she produced. Right? Were you going to say something? You were going to say something? You're not that modest? Well, they are hers, so I think that's pretty cool. The title of her presentation is Who's Been Touching Your Food? An analysis of local food systems and their impact on community, economy, and environment. Her host organization was Carnation Farmers Market, where she worked with Sarah Hughes and Lindsay Gilliam, and her faculty advisor was Carly Sheehan at the School of Art. Let's give it up for Lizzie.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, here I have an apple that I purchased from a farmer at a local farmer's market. I also have here an apple that I purchased from a supermarket less than a block away from that farmer's market. For this apple, I know who grew it, how it is grown, and where it is grown. For this apple, it may be a local apple, but I do not know its origins. Get ready. Yeah, trying to engage with the group. In America, we have separated ourselves from the food we eat. And so the real question is, how do we eat our food and what do we eat? So in my research and through my internship with the Carnation Farmers Market, I discovered through making a cookbook based on seasonally available food that we can narrow this down to the community, economy, and environment. And that means that for the community aspect, we can improve our relationship with the food we eat, we can improve the viability of smaller farms, and we can reduce the environmental impact caused by large-scale agriculture. Research always mentions local food systems, but what really is a local food system? Since researchers don't have one significant common term, I'm deeming our current local food system to be the Pacific Northwest, but they can often be much smaller than that. So community connections can be facilitated in a variety of ways, usually in settings such as farmers markets, food co-ops, and farm stands. When consumers are able to interact with like-minded consumers with similar purchasing goals, a sense of community is created. They also have the ability to interact face-to-face with the people that are growing and selling their food. So not only do they get to talk to the farmer, but they now have a face for the food they're buying. In many settings, such as farmers markets, are also hubs for entertainment and community engagement activities beyond the local food sphere. Unfortunately, economy was the reason that our environment and the food systems we are in right now are the way they are. Because of economic profit, we have prioritized food systems and producing one single crop ahead of producing regenerative crops. So if a smaller company who is dependent on these large companies was to abandon these practices of large-scale agriculture, they would be able to grow a variety of crops faster and sell it to community for a higher profit than they could to a wholesaler. So environmental impacts are huge with large-scale agriculture. From monoculture, where we're reducing the soil down to simply no nutrients anymore, like you saw in the Dust Bowl back in the day, or water usage, using our clean water and polluting the environment like Silent Spring when we lost all of our birds in the 60s. So what can we do about this? One thing to do is to grow your own food. As was mentioned in the first one, this is something that is an educational opportunity that we need to facilitate in our youth. So my host organization hosts weekly events for children to help teach them how food is grown, how food gets from the ground to their plate, and how to facilitate with purchasing interactions. So for us, not children, at a farmer's market, in Seattle, the greater Seattle area has a variety of farmers markets. And like Maddie said, that's not always the solution. And there are also food co-ops in Seattle, such as you may know PCC, huge food co-op that actually works with local farmers to create these connections and make a more accessible way to consume local food. And obviously on this map, this is not an intensive map. There are more options. If you're not available on the weekends, there are certain days of the week that also provide it. So the best way to create the most local of local food systems, as many people in my house in that row do, we grow our own food. In Seattle, it quite literally is cheaper to grow your own food at this point. And so the main issue I ran into with knowledge about this was people don't know what's seasonally available. Once again, what Maddie said. So for my internship with my cookbook, I created 4 seasons. You may know the seasons, and what food is seasonally available then. And then I used these seasons to create a cookbook with recipes based on which things were available in which season, which is seen on the screen. And yes, Sean, I did make those myself. So what I implore you to do is more conscious decision making. People always ask ourselves, I'm sure everyone in this room with environmental geared mindsets always ask why, like, what can I really do? And can my one decision really make a difference? The answer for local food systems is yes. One person buying from a farmer instead of a corporation really can make a difference, despite how trivial it may feel. And I'm sure we've all walked past farmers markets and asked, why can't we stop in? I want to stop in. It looks awesome. And so I would like to thank my site supervisors, Sarah and Lindsay, my host organization, Carnation, my friends, family, faculty advisor, Carly, everyone that's grew my passion for local food systems. These are Ducks, Pablo, and Peggy. Thank you for them for the emotional support and fertilizer, and also Free Palestine. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
My question is local or farmers market food significantly more expensive than food bought at a grocery?
It's a great question. Thank you. She asked if local food is more expensive than store-bought food. And unfortunately in Seattle, based on corporation and big scale agriculture wanting to keep getting more and more money from us, it actually is cheaper now to buy local food from a farmer's market than it is to go to the grocery store. The apples I just threw, one was $2.99 a pound and one was $3.99 a pound. The $3.99 a pound was at Safeway, and the $2.99 a pound was handed to me by a farmer who grew that apple. So great question. Thank you. No, eat it. It's yours now. Food sovereignty. Yeah.
I wonder if, as a farmer, if you wanted to answer the question about how you find the time to farm.
Yeah, so we live, great question. You're asking when we find time to farm. Really, like having a farm is much different. Like for us, living in Seattle, we have our whole back porch. We live in U District is lined with plants. There's basil growing, there's peppers, there's tomatoes, there's zucchini. Everything's just growing out of a pot. And one big thing I'm a big proponent of is that you can grow food anywhere. Even if you're in your dorm, a big sunlit window will get you herbs, anything. And it's just kind of like we wake up every morning, we water our plants, and that's what we do. And then you're done. There's really not a lot to it, especially when you're growing something from seed like that. Obviously, there's other plants that are much more intensive, or animals, which the ducks don't lay eggs. So that's not our issue, luckily. But yeah, so basically, if I answered your question, just taking a little portion of your morning. Some of us have alarms set for 9 a.m., go water your basil and stuff like that. Just having a little bit of an extra passion to do those things. Show you one more. Yeah.
For people who I guess are not super aware of local farmers or local produce and are very used to big corporations and just buying food from them, what sort of marketing strategy, so to speak, would you employ to get those people to gain more sovereignty over their food?
Yeah, I think one good question that they're asking basically how people that are kind of new to local food, how they can gain that sovereignty and gain knowledge. Most farmers markets have even an information table where they'll speak to you about who's there. Everyone's very friendly. You can talk to all the booths about what they do. A lot of them often frequent multiple markets a weekend. My host organization does theirs on Tuesdays, so that all of the farmers that come on the weekends can also go there. And it brings the availability for people that are working on weekends to actually work or actually come to the farmers market during the weekdays. like Wallingford farmers markets on Wednesday afternoons, stuff like that. But if that answered your question, yeah, like honestly, just ask questions. The U District Farmers Market gives out basically free money the second week of the month, where you get to like, they give you like fresh bucks. They're not fresh bucks, they're like some kind of dollar, and you can go buy produce with it. So just ways to like interact with more people in the local food sphere.
Well, thank you so much.